equals dark clouds hung low over Springfield, casting a gloomy shadow over the small town where I had once imagined my life blooming like the flowers in my mother's garden. Now, as I stood in front of the shattered remains of what used to be my family home, that vibrant image of my life felt like a distant memory. The air smelled like burnt wood and regret, a bitter reminder of everything I had lost. I could hardly believe that just a year ago, this place had been filled with laughter, warmth, and the smell of my mother's apple pie. Now there was nothing but silence, punctuated only by the crackle of fading embers and the occasional whisper of wind, sending shivers down my spine. Ella, are you all right? Nick's voice broke through my trance. He stood beside me, his expression taut with concern, his blue eyes darting from the ruins of the house back to me. I could see the worry etched on his face, yet I could not connect with the comfort he promised. Nick had been my friend since childhood, always there to catch me whenever I stumbled, but today I felt like I was missing. Do you want to talk about it? I shrugged, fighting against the flood of emotions surging inside me. There's nothing to talk about. The words slipped out a little harsher than I intended, but I could hardly muster the strength to soften the blow. I turned away, forcing my gaze back to the charred remains of the house. Memories of family dinners, birthday parties, and countless laughter washed over me like a tidal wave, crashing relentlessly against the defenses I had built. Ella, he pressed gently, his voice steady, you know you can't just bottle everything up. You're stronger than this, but you have to let it out. I'm tired of being strong, I breathed, the vulnerability in my voice an unwelcome sound. I wished for the thousandth time that I could just close my eyes and wish it all away. I had lost both my parents in that fire, a tragedy no one could explain, and I had buried myself in work, constantly trying to outrun the pain. On the outside, I built a facade of resilience, but inside, I felt like I was disintegrating. The air grew colder, prickling at my skin, dragging me back into the present. Without looking at him, I spoke again. Do you remember how we used to sneak into this house after school? We would chase each other all over the yard and play hide and seek until dusk? Of course I do, Nick replied, a nostalgic smile creeping onto his lips. You always hid in the narrow space between the shed and the fence, and I always found you. You were terrible at hiding. I chuckled weakly at the memory, but it was too fleeting. The smile faded as I stood there, shoulders heavy with burdens I was not ready to acknowledge. Now it's just ashes. My eyes glazed over as I surveyed the wreckage. Firefighters had done their best, but there was little left of my childhood sanctuary. The structure, once tall and proud, was reduced to a crumbled skeleton. The scent of smoke still clung stubbornly to the air, mingling with the metallic tang of charred wood. A fallen beam shouted of anguish, and the heart of the house, the kitchen, had been swallowed whole, where my mother had cooked countless meals filled with love and warmth. The memories flowed, her laughter, her encouraging words, her guiding spirit. Each one was a dagger in the already open wound. Nick stepped closer, leaning against the broken fence with a resigned sigh. His dark hair flopped over his forehead as he studied my face, searching for understanding. You know they are still investigating the fire, right? They might find out what really happened. I waved a hand dismissively, though inside, his words ignited a flicker of turmoil. What difference does it make? It was an accident, just an awful, horrible accident. Was it? He challenged, his voice laced with something darker, something I had only seen him summon in dire moments. You don't truly believe that, do you? His question hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. It was a dangerous thought. Just days after the fire, I had found myself pacing the small apartment, my mind racing with chaos. My gut twisted as I remembered the strange circumstances surrounding the incident. The insurance policies, the whispers of negligence, and the frantic phone calls that had started just before the fire in a series of warnings that I could not piece together. Then there was that feeling, a gnawing suspicion that refused to leave me alone, but I pushed it away. I don't want to dwell on it, Nick. I want to remember my parents the way they were, not how they died. The laughter, the warmth, and the compassion were slipping away from me, much like the remnants of my home were slipping through my fingers. I just want to move on. He took a step back, obviously frustrated, but also aware that my heart was raw. And how do you plan on doing that, Ella? You can't just pretend everything is fine. This isn't just going to magically disappear. Maybe I don't need it to disappear, I snapped, my voice rising as clarity hit me. Maybe I need revenge. His brows raised so high they nearly disappeared into his hairline. Revenge? What are you talking about? He paused, and I could see the tension tighten across his body, every muscle ready for confrontation. Ella, that's not you. Maybe I'm not me anymore, I replied, anguish creeping into my tone. You don't know what it's like. A silence settled between us, heavy with unspoken truths. My mind raced as the weight of my words hung like a storm cloud, yet something sparked deep within me, a flash of purpose. What if it wasn't just an accident? I thought, biting down on my lip until I tasted iron. What if someone had deliberately done this to my family? Nick crossed his arms, his expression shifting from concern to determination. No, Ella, you have to grieve. Revenge isn't going to fix what happened. Revenge might be the only way to find some justice, I shouted, startling a bird from the nearby tree. Why was I yelling? My heart thudded wildly in my chest, louder than my own raging thoughts. I took a deep, shaky breath, willing myself to calm down. But something inside me had ignited, the match struck from the remnants of fury that had been brewing since that night. What if we have a look? Nick suggested suddenly, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. What if we start piecing things together? If you truly believe there is more, we should dig deeper. You don't have to do this alone. His eyes were alive with a mixture of fear and excitement, urging me to trust him. I considered his words, the idea washing over me and making my pulse race. I could almost see the wheel of ideas turning within my mind, the possibilities branching out like vines, but fear lingered at the corners of my thoughts, warning me to tread carefully. We could get into trouble, I don't want to make things worse. Or, he countered with a smile, we could uncover the truth. You owe it to your parents to find out what really happened, even if it is dangerous. His words resonated with me, striking at the very core of my pain. Their faces flashed before me, and I could almost hear their voices urging me to fight. Okay, I whispered, feeling a surge of purpose returning to me like the warmth of the sun after a long, dark winter. Let's find the truth. Great, Nick exclaimed, clapping his hands together like an excited child. Let's head back to my place, grab your laptop, and start digging. I nodded, my heart still pounding, but aligning with a newfound sense of determination. As we turned to walk away from the ruins, I glanced back one last time. It was not just about finding justice for my parents anymore. It was about uncovering a terrible secret that had been hidden in the shadows. With each step away from the wreckage, I felt the weight of anger swell in my chest, igniting a long-forgotten yearning for justice. I would discover who was responsible. I would piece together the fragments of truth, no matter how painful. As we reached the end of the street, I touched the cool metal of a locket around my neck, my mother's last gift to me, and whispered a silent promise. The foundations of my life may have been shattered, but I would not be broken. The storm of vengeance would begin to brew, and its whispers would guide me onto a path I never thought I would tread. I sat at my mahogany dining table, the grain of the wood beneath my fingers familiar and warm, yet it only reminded me of the coldness of betrayal. My heart thudded heavily in my chest, the sound reverberating in my ears as the lighting in the room flickered slightly, casting shadows that danced across the walls like reminders of my darkening thoughts. It had been 2 days since I discovered the truth about Marcus, the man I had trusted with everything, my heart, my dreams, and my life. And now he had stolen my closest friend, Lindsay, right from under my nose. I forced myself to take a deep breath, inhaling the scent of freshly brewed coffee that lingered in the air, a desperate attempt to fill my lungs with something other than anger. I needed to figure out my next move. The sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, illuminating the single vase of wilting daisies sitting at the center of the table. They used to be vibrant, alive, cheerful offerings of spring. Now they echoed my feelings perfectly, faded dreams, hope wilting away. I picked a few of the darker petals off and let them fall to the tabletop, imagining they represented my own hopes for my relationship with Marcus. They would not hold me back. Ella, the voice broke through my thoughts, smooth and tinged with concern. It was my brother, Grant. His 6-foot frame filled the doorway, a tall shadow against the bright light, his features set in a look of cautious inquiry. You good? Yeah, I'm fine, I lied, forcing a smile that I hoped would cover up the turmoil churning inside me. Fine, right. He stepped further into the room, the floor creaking beneath his weight as he leaned against the counter. I could see the concern etched in his brow, those faint lines that had deepened over the years. You have that look again. Like you're about to break a world record for holding a grudge. Do you want to talk about it? No. I shook my head more vehemently than I intended, my temper flaring at the suggestion of sharing my pain. If I shared, I would have to admit how much this hurt. I wasn't ready to face that wound yet. There's nothing to talk about. Grant studied me for a moment longer before crossing his arms over his chest, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. Okay, but you know I'm here if you need me, right? You're my sister, I care about you. I appreciated his concern, but it only added to the tightness in my throat. Instead of replying, I shifted my gaze to the window, watching the world outside. The leaves were just beginning to change colors, shades of gold and auburn fighting for dominance. Wasn't it ironic how beauty could blossom from decay? It's a beautiful day, Ella, he said softly, breaking my reverie. Why don't we go for a walk, clear our heads a little? I considered his suggestion, desperate for any distraction from the gnawing betrayal that gnawed at my gut. Sure, a walk might help. Grant nodded, a warm smile finally breaking through. I got up and grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair, slipping it on while he held the door open for me. The cool autumn air wrapped around me like a blanket, a refreshing contrast to the stuffy feelings flooding my heart. As we stepped outside, the crunch of gravel underfoot echoed, the sound satisfying as we took off down the street. I watched as leaves swirled in the breeze around us, painting the ground with their vibrant colors. If only my thoughts could swirl away as easily. So, what's on your mind? Just work? Grant asked, attempting casual small talk, but I could hear the underlying concern still there, lurking just beneath the surface. Pressure built inside me again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to share, but dragging Lindsay's name into it felt like admitting defeat. Just the usual, life, stress, work. Just life. Life is hard, I get that, but you look like someone is stealing your sunshine. Let me in, Ella. I hesitated, my thoughts racing back to that betrayal. I was being selfish. It's Marcus, I blurted out there. The truth hung heavy between us, suspended by tension and unspoken words. Marcus, what did he do? Lindsay, he? The words caught in my throat, and I focused hard on the path ahead, barely noticing the small park on my left, the sound of laughter from children at the playground nearby. He's seeing her. I worked to keep my voice steady but wavered when my heart clenched painfully. Grant stopped walking, and I felt the weight of his piercing gaze on me. He's seeing her. How do you know this? I found a message on his phone, about meeting up and. I could barely finish the sentence, my stomach rolling with anger and betrayal. They're together, like together, together? Wow. Grant finally resumed walking, taking a deep breath. I can't believe this. I trusted that guy. He's been family to me, too. I wasn't done yet. He ruined everything, Grant. I can't trust him anymore. I feel so stupid. No, Ella, don't say that. You're not stupid. He's the one who played you. Grant placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're too good for him. You always have been. What's the point of being good if it gets me hurt? I snapped, frustration bubbling over. I shook my head in disbelief. It's like I'm living in some ridiculous, twisted drama. The pressure was building, boiling over like an old pot left too long on the stove. My temper was so close to splattering everywhere. I just can't believe he pretended like everything was fine between us while he was sneaking around behind my back. That's what makes it betrayal, Ella. It cuts deep because it's from someone you love. His empathy felt like warm rays of sunshine breaking through storm clouds, but I was angry and fragile all at once. I know we should have been happy. We paused on the edge of the park, my breaths coming heavy as I watched a little girl swing back and forth, her laughter pealing like bells in the air, oblivious to the tumult that rolled around me. A sudden wave of resentment washed over me, fueled by the unfairness of it all. Hey, wanna break something? Grant asked suddenly, his eyes flickering with mischief. I blinked at him, half amused and half offended. What? I laughed, surprised at the unexpected suggestion. Like a window or something, not like you have to pay for it or anything. Just release that pressure through destruction, he said, shrugging, trying to lighten the heavy mood. You want to go vandalizing? Is that your big plan? I raised an eyebrow, feeling the corner of my mouth twitch. Not vandalism, more like stress relief. You don't have to take it seriously, just let it out a little plus. I hear windows break really nice. I glanced back at the little girl, still swinging so carefree, and felt a spark ignite within me. Maybe there is something we could break. Now you're thinking, what do you have in mind? His eyes twinkled with excitement, and I felt my own heart race with a strange blend of rebellion and urgency. Remember that old shed by the edge of the woods? Grant nodded, a grin spreading across his face. One that has probably seen better days. Exactly. I just need to let this out. Come on. Together, we pivoted, laughing as we bounded away from the park and into the dense trees surrounding the outskirts of the playground. The path narrowed, covered in crunching dried leaves, the sense of earth and pine filling my senses as I marched toward my goal. Dare I ask what you're thinking? Grant chuckled as we neared the dilapidated shed, its wooden boards weathered and gray, surrendering to nature's wrath. You'll see. I replied, excitement bubbling inside me as we stepped up to the shed, debris littering the ground. All right, how about we start with? Grant found a small branch, bending down to pick it up. We can use this. I grabbed a thick piece of wood that had come loose from the shed's frame, a heavy piece with rough edges that fit perfectly in my grip. Yeah, this is good. With adrenaline surging, I swung at the shed's side, the impact shaking through my limbs as the wood smashed against the faded exterior. A thrill coursed through me, and I swung again, each strike releasing fragments of anger I hadn't fully acknowledged. Let it out, Ella, Grant shouted with encouragement, joining in and delivering strikes along with me, both of us caught in a wild dance of chaos and catharsis. Each strike chipped away layers of my hurt, peeling back the layers of betrayal Marcus left behind. Yeah, this is for all the lies? I yelled, my voice rising above the sound of splintering wood. With a thunderous crash, a board broke free, falling to the ground with a thud that echoed just like my heart's once fragile beats, now replaced with a steady rhythm of defiance. Never trust a man who wears two faces, Grant shouted, punching the air victoriously after landing a blow. I laughed, the sound bubbling up from a deep place of joy that felt foreign amidst the chaos of betrayal, and the feeling filled me with renewed spirit. That's right, he can keep his fake smiles, I deserve the truth. As we continued to strike, wood breaking apart and flying in splinters, What surprised me most was not the physical release, but the way it transformed into a sense of clarity. Each shatter became a reminder that I was stronger than the hurt. After a particularly satisfying smash fell apart in an explosion of debris, I dropped my branch, breathless but empowered. We did a number on that thing, I panted, wiping the sweat off my forehead. Grant leaned against the shed, grinning like a schoolboy. Feeling better? Much. It's like a weight has been lifted, I admitted, the rush still pulsing through my veins. Glad to hear it, Grant replied, walking toward me looking proud. Just remember, destruction can be a form of creation, too. You're breaking free from this, literally. I took in the destruction we had wrought, and for the first time since all this had begun, I felt a flicker of hope blooming in the space where my anguish had taken root. Now, I just need to figure out what comes next. Whatever you do, just know you have my support. We'll figure it out together, he said, clapping a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We stood there a moment longer, the edges of our breaths mingling in the cool air as I stared, not just at the wreckage we had created, but at what I could become after everything fell apart. The sun shone down, illuminating the pieces of wood like tiny pieces of broken glass glittering on the ground, a sign that amidst the ruins, I was still there, ready to rise from the ashes. Right, I said, determination surging through me like adrenaline, lighting me up inside. Let's get to work. I stood silently at the edge of the park, the tree branches swaying gently in the early evening breeze, their leaves brushing together like gossiping friends. The sun was beginning to dip down, casting warm, golden hues across the sidewalk where I waited. My heart thumped heavily in my chest, each beat a reminder of what was to come. I had spent sleepless nights plotting the perfect retribution for what Charlotte had taken from me. The laughter of children playing nearby gnawed at my insides, sharp as any knife. As the evening sun slid lower, I felt that irresistible pull, an urge to set the world right, or at least to reclaim the shreds of my dignity. I glanced at my phone, noting the time. She was late. I had expected this. Charlotte always had a way of making everything about herself, a talent I had once admired, now just another layer of bitterness. I could still remember her voice, confident and commanding, pulling me into her whirlwind life when we were friends. Ella, you need to be bolder, she'd often said, tossing her hair back. My fingers flexed at my side, the anticipation of our confrontation prickling my skin like electric currents. You need to stand up for yourself, I murmured to myself, squeezing my eyes shut as a rush of anger coursed through me. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of freshly cut grass mixed with the sweet aroma of blooming flowers. It was lovely, but I couldn't let it distract me from my mission. I thought of her betrayal again, each moment of friendship flashing before my eyes like a sad movie reel, the laughter, the secrets, and then the cold realization that she had been posing as the supportive friend while plotting my downfall. Who does that? As I paced back and forth on the gravel path, I recalled the day it all changed. I had been sitting at a small cafe, sipping my usual peppermint tea when Charlotte sauntered over, an all-too-knowing smile plastered across her face. Guess what? I'm dating Mark. Those words echoed in my mind, a cruel melody that turned my heart icy. Mark, my Mark, whom I had loved and trusted. Isn't it exciting? She had continued, oblivious to the shock that rooted me to my seat. I flicked my gaze back to the park entrance, feeling my chest constrict with every second that ticked by. Was this a mistake? A small part of me whispered doubts, but I shoved it aside. I needed to face her. This meeting was the next step in my plan, one part of a much larger operation I had devised. No more of this hiding in the shadows, I murmured. It is time, Ella. The fervor returned as I straightened my posture and stared down the path she'd come from, ready to confront the woman who had turned my life upside down. Suddenly, I spotted her, a cascade of blonde hair catching the light, her figure moving with that same confident stride. I could feel my heart racing. 1,000 thoughts spiraled through my mind. What will I say? What will I do? As she approached, a smirk crept onto her lips, and for a moment I thought she might have the audacity to act like nothing had changed. The warmth of the sun seemed to extinguish as she drew closer, casting a shadow over my resolve. Ella, she called out, her voice like honey dripping from a spoon, thick with insincere sweetness. I didn't think you would actually come. There it was, her feigned surprise. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. What would it accomplish to shriek my truth into the world like a banshee? Instead, I decided to play it cool, adopting the calmness I lacked inside. Of course I would come, we need to talk. A flicker of concern crossed her face, but she masked it quickly with a laugh. Oh, come on, it feels like old times, just the two of us catching up over a cup of coffee. She gestured towards a nearby bench, the sunlight draping us in warm tones, so calm, so deceptively peaceful. I felt a wave of nausea. All I wanted to do was confront her, to let my pain out like a floodgate bursting open. Sit down, Ella. You look like you've seen a ghost, she teased, but the laughter didn't reach her eyes. I narrowed my gaze, the laughter seeming hollow. How have you been? She asked, crossing her legs and leaning in slightly, feigning concern. I have been fantastic. I replied, biting back the urge to roll my eyes. It's wonderful to see you again. The words were laced with poison, and I saw that flicker of recognition in her expression. How are things with you and Mark? The faux smile faltered, and I savored that split second of vulnerability. Oh, we are great, she said, her voice tightening, but the practiced cheer still weaved through her words. Just enjoying life together. You know how it is. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to keep my voice steady despite the anger building inside. You mean how it is when you take something from someone else and pretend it is all normal? Her expression shifted again, from feigned nonchalance to genuine surprise. Ella, come on, that was ages ago. You really have to let that go. She waved a dismissive hand as if I had already been overshadowed, but I pressed my lips together, my whole body vibrating with the need to push back. Let it go, I spat, unable to contain my mounting fury any longer. You don't get to say that. I lost everything because of you. My voice trembled with emotion, a raw edge creeping in as I leaned closer, staring deep into her eyes, reminding myself to keep my footing. You don't even realize the extent of your betrayal. Her facade wavered just for a split second, and I saw that fleeting glimpse of guilt ripple through her features. Ella, I thought you were over this. Over it? You think this is something I can just shrug off? I thought you were my friend. The harshness of my voice surprised even me, but it felt good. A release, a necessary step. I made a mistake, she said, her tone softening slightly, but I could tell she was more annoyed than remorseful. I am sorry if I hurt you, but Mark and I cut her off, the fire burning bright within me now, fueled by her dismissive tone. It's not just about you and Mark, it's about trust, Charlotte. You took something sacred, something that meant the world to me, and crushed it like it was nothing. She rolled her eyes, a habitual gesture dripping with disdain that made my skin crawl. Get over yourself, Ella. You act like you were the only one who got hurt. You're not a victim here. It took everything in me not to stand up and walk away, but I was determined. I never claimed to be a victim, but I will not let you walk around as if what you did didn't matter, as if I am just supposed to forget it and let it slide. You may see your life as a game, Charlotte, but I refuse to play by your rules. The words hung in the air as we stared at each other, the tension thick enough to slice with a knife. I waited, hoping that she might show some sign of guilt, some trace of regret, but the cold smirk returned. You really think you can just waltz back into my life, stirring trouble, and expect me to feel sorry for you? Get real, Ella. I don't owe you anything, she shot back, her voice sharp as a blade, and for a moment I felt the sting of her words. I stood my ground, forcing back the tears that threatened to spill. I am not here to make you feel sorry for me. I want you to see how your actions echo far beyond that moment. This isn't just about us anymore. It is about standing up for what is right. That is rich coming from you, she laughed, the sound ringing empty. You have always been weak, afraid to take risks. Maybe this is just your way of lashing out because you are upset someone finally beat you at your own game. The jab cut deep, and suddenly, the resolve I had felt earlier wavered like a candle flickering in the wind. I wanted to scream, to yell, but instead I breathed deeply, feeling the calm wash over me as I gathered my thoughts. That is where you are wrong, not anymore. I am not weak, and you will see that, Charlotte. I am done allowing you to dictate my feelings. I felt emboldened, the words flowing with newfound strength. You see, this is not just about revenge. It is about empowerment, claiming back what you tried to rob from me. You took my relationship, my trust, and twisted it into your playground, but I am not your toy anymore. She sneered, folding her arms as if my words utterly failed to faze her. You talk a big game, but I don't think you have the guts to back it up. Is that a challenge? I narrowed my eyes, the seed of a plan germinating in my mind, daring to blossom into something more. Maybe you need to be reminded that I am not the one who is afraid of taking risks, Charlotte. Her brow furrowed slightly, and I could see my words hitting a nerve. What are you suggesting, Ella? You're not the same girl I used to know. No, I am not. I have grown and I have changed. And the next time we meet, you might not like what you see. I turned abruptly, feeling lighter as I left the meeting behind, the weight on my shoulders beginning to lift, but I knew our final confrontation was yet to come. I stepped away from the park, feeling the cool night air wrap around me, and for the first time in a long while, I felt empowered. If today was any indication, the game was just getting started, and I was ready to play. I stood at the edge of the public park, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the grassy expanse. My heart hammered in my chest like a war drum, a relentless reminder of what was about to unfold. The crisp autumn air filled my lungs as I pulled my sweater tighter around my shoulders. I could see the swings swaying gently in the breeze, kids laughing in the distance, completely oblivious to the storm brewing nearby. Today was the day I would finally confront Jordan and reclaim everything he had taken from me. As I glanced down at my phone, the screen illuminated a message from my sister, Sarah. You sure about this, Ella? It read. I could feel the weight of her concern through the chilly glass. I hesitated for just a moment, contemplating a world where I didn't go through with my plan. But those thoughts faded as I remembered the betrayal that had shaped my life. Jordan had taken my trust, my happiness, and had twisted the knife deeper with every passing day. Anger surged within me, hot and fierce, fueling my resolve. I typed back a quick reply. I have to do this. I'm ready. Just stay safe, okay? Sarah replied almost instantly. A warmth spread through my chest, reassuring and grounding. Our bond had always been unbreakable, but I sensed she worried that my growing ambition for revenge could lead me to make reckless decisions. I tucked my phone away and took a deep breath, the cold air reminding me of the stakes. I moved toward a small gazebo at the heart of the park, where I had arranged to meet Jordan. I hardly recognized the person I saw in the reflection of the glass panels. The woman staring back was fierce and determined, but also haunted by the memories of what Jordan had done to me. I recalled the first time we met, how his charming smile had lit up my world. But that same smile had turned sinister as he manipulated those around him, including me. It was about 15 minutes past our agreed meeting time when I spotted him. A tall figure in a fitted leather jacket, his dark hair tousled just enough to look like he had stepped off a magazine cover. My heart raced as I fought against the desire to turn and run, but I couldn't back down, not now. Ella, he called as he approached, his voice smooth like honey. You look great, it's been a while. I forced a smile. Thanks, Jordan, you don't look so bad yourself. Inside, I was grappling with a sense of sickness. How could I have ever fallen for someone who would do such despicable things? My thoughts raced as he stepped closer, the smell of his cologne a sharp reminder of the intimacy we once shared. Let's sit, he gestured to the wooden bench under the gazebo. I thought it might be a good place to catch up. Sure, I replied, my voice steadier than my insides. We sat down, the wood cool against my thighs. I steeled myself for the confrontation I had spent countless nights rehearsing in my mind. So, what's up? He asked, leaning back casually. He had a way of making everything seem insignificant, as if nothing mattered except this moment, but everything mattered, at least to me. I wanted to talk about something important, I said, my voice strong though I felt exposed. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued, his confidence unshaken. What you did, Jordan, it caused a lot of damage. What do you mean? He replied, tilting his head slightly, a predator toying with its prey. I held his gaze. I mean the way you betrayed me. You took my trust and crushed it. I didn't let the emotion crack in my voice, even if my heart ached at memories of his deception. He chuckled softly, leaning closer, and it sent a chill down my spine. Come on, Ella, don't be dramatic. It was just business. His words dripped with arrogance, the tone sending fire coursing through my veins. Business. You destroyed my business, my reputation. You could have asked me for help instead of going behind my back. I almost shouted, the tension bubbling dangerously close to the surface. You think I didn't deserve a fair chance? He waved his hand dismissively. You were too busy to notice the opportunities right under your nose. I can't help it if you failed to keep up. Failed to keep up? I laughed, though it felt hollow. I worked my tail off for years, Jordan. I trusted you with everything and you took it all. Look, I didn't know you were going to take it this way. His defensive posture only fueled my anger. It wasn't personal, it was just business. Stop saying that, I exclaimed, the fire within me roaring. You think you get to dismiss the pain you caused just because it was a business decision? You destroyed my dreams. He leaned back, crossing his arms, a smirk playing on his lips. Dreams are for people who can't face reality, Ella. I was just doing what anyone else would have done, take advantage of an opportunity. Take advantage? You fed me lies while stripping away my livelihood. I leaned in, wanting him to feel the weight of the emotions I had been carrying for so long. Do you even feel guilty for what you did? Or are you so consumed by your own greed that you can't see other people's pain? Honestly, I don't. He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. People need to toughen up in this world. You had your shot, you just dropped the ball. Those words hit me like a slap in the face, each one a reminder of why I was there. The anger bubbling inside me shifted into a determination that sharpened every syllable. No, Jordan, you don't get to pass the blame. Not anymore. I pulled a small envelope from my handbag, the edges crisp and unyielding, and placed it firmly between us. His eyes went from the envelope to my face, confusion clouding his expression. What's this? Consider it your last paycheck, I said, leaning back, my confidence unwavering. You know, I've thought a lot about how I want to handle this. I could drag your name through the mud, expose your shady dealings, but that would be too easy, don't you think? He looked puzzled, a flicker of unease crossing his features. What are you talking about, Ella? Just give it to me straight. Talking about a little game we used to play, I said, my heart racing as I clutched the edge of the bench. You may think you have the upper hand, but I've done my homework. I have evidence, proof of everything you've done. The lies, the manipulation, the underhanded dealings. His expression hardened, a shift that made the air around us feel electric. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I will, I replied, my voice calm yet filled with a fierce determination. I've spent the last few months gathering information, speaking to the people you've wronged, your former partners. They're waiting for someone to stand up to you, to call you out for the fraud you are. All it takes is the right moment, and I'm ready to strike. Ella, you're bluffing. You don't have anything, he said, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. Are you sure about that? I smiled sweetly, savoring the moment. I reveled in the power I had reclaimed. All I have to do is make one phone call, and everything you've built will come crashing down. His jaw clenched, but I could see the fear flickering in his eyes. He was scrambling, trying to hold on to the remnants of his arrogance. You are playing a dangerous game. You think you can just take me down? You have no idea who you are dealing with. I think I know exactly who I am dealing with, I retorted, my voice firm. You took everything from me, and now I get to take something back. Your downfall will be a fitting payback. You taught me how to play hardball. Let's see how you handle it when it's your turn. For a moment, there was silence between us, a thick, heavy silence that felt like a weight pressing down on both of us. The laughter of children in the distance echoed around, a stark contrast to the tension building in our little corner of the world. What do you want, Ella? He finally asked, his bravado waning. I want you to know that I am not afraid of you anymore, I replied, my heart pounding against my ribs. I want you to see what it feels like to be vulnerable for once. You think you've controlled everything, but now that control slips from your fingers. Making a big mistake? No, you made the mistake when you crossed me, I interrupted, my voice vibrating with intensity. You thought I was small and harmless, but look who has the gears turning now. He stared at me, a mix of disbelief and respect flickering across his face. You've really thought this through, haven't you? Every single detail, I said, savoring the taste of victory already. I don't want anything extravagant. I want you to feel the weight of your actions, to understand that consequences exist even for those who think they're untouchable. Okay, let's say, hypothetically, you have this information. What do you want me to do? He asked, his tone cautious, almost humbled. If you want to turn this situation around, I need you to clean up your act. Walk away from the business and relinquish any claims on it. I want an official statement to everyone involved, declaring my innocence and yours as the villain. You'll admit your mistakes out loud and allow me to step back in without consequences. You think I would ever agree to that? He scoffed, but I caught the uncertainty hidden behind his bravado. Oh, I think you will, I replied, steely-eyed and relentless. Or else everything you built will come crumbling down. I've seen how ruthless you can be. It's time you felt that same heat at your back. Your reputation lies in my hands now. The color drained from his face, revealing the true extent of his surprise. I watched as he weighed his options, calculating his next steps. I could see the tension build as he weighed the risk of taking me on versus submitting to my demands. I need time to think, he finally said, the bravado almost non-existent now. You have until tomorrow evening, I told him, standing up from the bench, filled with renewed strength. After that, I make my call. Ella, wait, he called after me, desperation creeping back into his voice. I turned, feeling triumphant. Consider this your final warning, I said, my heart pounding with excitement. Then I walked away, the crunch of leaves beneath my feet matching the rhythm of my heart. Each step I took felt like I was leaving behind a piece of my old self, a self that had been shattered and lost. Now I was stepping into the unknown, empowered and raw. I could hardly believe what I had just done. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, electrifying every nerve ending. The sun dipped lower in the sky, wrapping the park in a golden hue, but the darkness of my past was finally giving way to a new chapter. I had done what I had set out to do, but the final stroke of my revenge still loomed ahead, waiting for me in the shadows. Tomorrow would test my resolve like never before.